Hi everyone, welcome to your first Edpuzzle lesson. Today we'll be going over how to solve for x using addition and subtraction. So whenever you see this pencil logo, it means to write stuff down in your notebook. And then if you see the puzzle logo, that means to answer the question on Edpuzzle. So let's get started. Be sure to always write this focused learning target down. So given an equation, I will be able to solve for x by using inverse operations on both sides to isolate the x. So don't worry if this sounds super confusing. Let's break it down, kind of focusing on the important words right here. So when you hear inverse operations, you want to think of doing the opposite operation. So like the opposite of addition is subtraction, the opposite of multiplication is division. So think of doing the opposite operation, and we're doing this to cancel things from the equation. And remember, if you need more time to either write the stuff down or to process the information, remember that you can pause the video at any time, and you can also rewind as necessary. So again, we use inverse operations, so we do the opposite in order to cancel things from the equation. So imagine having like $2, but then if you spend the $2, it kind of cancels out and now you're left with nothing. And then we want to apply inverse operations to both sides, because we want to make sure everything stays balanced. So think of an actual balance like this, where in order to keep them the same weight, you'd have to take away or add on the same amount to both sides. And then lastly, to isolate something just means to put it by itself. So our goal in an equation with an x, so when we're solving for x, we want to eventually isolate the x. We want the x by itself. And in order to do that, we're going to use things like inverse operations on both sides of the equation. Alright, so let's say I originally start with an unknown number of boba drinks, and then I buy 2 more because I love boba, and now I have a total of 5 drinks. So how many boba drinks did I start off with? And in your head, you're probably like, oh, she started with 3 drinks. So this is actually kind of going along the lines of solving for x. So we're going to let this unknown amount be x, and then plus 2 equals 5. So we've set up a math equation. So let's actually let this be our first example. So we are going to solve for x, and the equation is x plus 2 equals 5. Be sure to write the problem down too. Okay, so we have x plus 2 equals 5, and remember, I want to isolate the x. I want x by itself. So I notice that this plus 2 is kind of in the way. So how do I get rid of it? How do I cancel it out? Remember, I want to use inverse operations on both sides. So what is the opposite of adding 2? It would be subtracting 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides to make sure they're balanced. And now this part cancels out, so we've gotten rid of that plus 2 that was in the way. So on the left side now we're left with x, and on the right side 5 minus 2 equals 3. So our answer is x equals 3. Let's take a look at another example. So solve for x, and our equation right here is x plus 8 equals 12. So remember, make sure you're writing down the problem as well. So we want to isolate the x. So when I write out this x plus 8 equals 12, I notice that the plus 8 is in the way. So how do I remove this? I want to do inverse operations. So what's the opposite of adding 8? It would be subtracting 8. And remember, I'm going to do this on both sides to make sure the equation is still balanced. Now we can remove the plus 8 because 8 minus 8, that's going to cancel out. And so on the left side, we are left with x, and on the right side, we have 12 minus 8, which equals 4. So our final answer is x equals 4. So go ahead and solve this example on Edpuzzle. So what is x? And our equation is x plus 9 equals 19. So now let's take a look at an example that's slightly different. So let's say I have an unknown amount of boba drinks, but I give 3 away. So now I only have 4 drinks left. So how many did I originally have? In your head, you think about it and you probably think, oh, she had 7 boba drinks originally. So if I write that as a equation, the unknown is x minus 3 equals 4. So let's solve this as an example. Okay, so we are going to solve for x, and the equation is x minus 3 equals 4. So remember, our goal is to isolate the x, so to have x by itself. So I notice that this minus 3 is in the way. So what's the opposite of subtracting 3? So we're going to add 3 on both sides, since we're doing inverse operations on both sides of the equation. So now we can cancel out the minus 3 and the plus 3. So we're left with x equals 7, because 4 plus 3 equals 7. So x equals 7. So another example, let's solve for x, and our equation is x minus 7 equals 7. And because I want to isolate the x, I notice that the minus 7 is in the way. So what is the opposite of subtracting 7? Adding 7. So we're going to add 7 to both sides, again because we're doing inverse operations on both sides of the equation. And from here, opposites cancel, so we have x on the left side equals 14. Be careful right here. Remember, on the right side, we're doing 7 plus 7 equals 14. So don't accidentally cancel it out or anything. So as our final answer, we get that x equals 14. And one more example on Edpuzzle. Please solve for x minus 4 equals 5. And so as a quick review for today's lesson, you can solve for x by using inverse operations on both sides of the equation to isolate the x. Remember, the end goal is to have x by itself. So good job today. Make sure you submit your notes on Canvas.